live. Fantastic. Just one thing I'll do is I'll take the link for this stream because it's made a new one and put it in the comment section of the old one so that people are redirected to this. So maybe give them a minute or two to sort of get there. But we are live on YouTube.
Awesome.
Okay. At least we're live. At least we're live. It could be worse.
Another minute, I guess.
Yes. They're just getting the memo now, so
okay.
I'm just redirecting them.
It'll be recorded, so they won't miss out on that anyway. And
yeah, and what we actually find is, exactly, is that they'll catch it one way or the other. Yes. Okay, so I've put them, alighted them in the comments and the live chat to go. So some people have already started moving.
Okay. Yeah, I can see messages from people as well. Okay, yeah.
You can?
To me, like saying that they're moving, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I see. Wonderful. Yes. Hopefully they'll see the chat and get the memo immediately. Yeah, I'll put the link. Yes. So just give me a couple more seconds and then we should get to start. I mean, the event is streaming, it's just a matter of. Okay, I think we can get started. Yeah, somebody's saying that it works, so fantastic.
Awesome.
Yes, Hardik.
Fair enough. So welcome to the special keynote talk at the first edition of the Future Conference. Today we have with us two very special guests, Mr. Saurabh Mukherjea and Mr. Anupam Gupta. I would like to start off by giving a brief introduction to the two of them. So Mr. Anupam Gupta is a chartered accountant and a sell-side analyst currently living in India. Former vice president at Barclays India. He was also a consultant at Ambit Capital, a financial services firm where he worked with our other guest, which is Mr. Saurabh Mukherjea. And now he has recently taken a rather offbeat path by starting his own podcast, Paisa Vaisa, which won the Best Business Podcast Award at the Asia Podcast Summit. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Gupta. Apart from him, we also have Mr. Saurabh Mukherjea, the Chief Investment Officer of Marcellus Investment Managers, a firm that he started about 2 years ago and which now has more than 100 million pounds in assets under management. Previously, he was also the CEO of Ambit Capital, the same financial services firm I had referred to earlier. By the time he left Ambit Capital, the firm had $800 million, almost $1 billion in assets under management. Before this, he was also the founder of Clear Capital, a wealth management firm and an independent stockbroker in London after he graduated from the London School of Economics. So we are very glad to have him here as well. And what I would also like to mention is that the two of them together have consistently delivered returns of at least 20% over the past half decade, or maybe over the past decade or so. In some cases, 25 or 30% as well. Just to put that number in context, Warren Buffett, the one we like to talk about so much, various societies and other places as well, delivered a 19% CAGR over a period of 50 years. So we sincerely hope that 40, 50 years down the line, they will have left Warren Buffett in the dust. Thank you. Over to you.
We can start the presentation?
Yes, please go ahead.
So you'll have to just give me screen sharing rights, if that's, because I can't do that right now.
Fair enough. Sorry about that. And I cannot see the more option again.
I think I got it.
Here we are.
Yeah, there you go.
So I hope that everybody can see the presentation now.
Yes.
Works for you? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Aditya. Thank you, Hardik. Hardik, just one clarification. I wish that I was responsible in getting 20% return for Saurabh, but I don't work with him on the fund management side. I wish I was as good a fund manager as him. I would have done, I would have fared better on my personal finances. But no, I'm an independent research consultant and a podcaster, as you said. So thank you, thank you, Hardik, thank you, Aditya, and welcome to everybody at the Future Conference at the University of Edinburgh. It's an honor for us to be associated with this great platform. So I'll just get started right away. You guys know we've got a book out. It's called The Victory Project: 6 Steps to Peak Potential. Saurabh and me have written it, and today we're going to present to you essentially the 2 years of research that we put in for the book, which is about the drivers of outsized professional success in highly competitive industries and professions. I'll begin the first half of this presentation, and Saurabh will join in for the second half. So let's get this started. Okay, so India's economic miracle, right? In the last 20 years, India's GDP has tripled. On a per capita basis, we are at about $2,500 US from around $600 20 years ago. We've grown faster than any large democracy has ever grown in the history of this planet. In fact, India has grown faster over the last 20 years than any large country has grown, obviously with the sole exception of China. And yet all this prosperity hasn't really produced any happiness. Nearly half the marriages in our large cities are breaking down. Job security is a source of mental stress. For a big part of the workforce, mental health is an issue. Of course, for you guys who are doing your undergrad, maybe it's not such a big thing, but we're feeling the pressure out here in India. So we had met Dr. Sharmila Banwat, a Mumbai-based psychologist who spoke to us for the book, and she said that she sees people who cannot figure out how to get that work-life balance. They understand it conceptually but can't implement it practically. So where's the problem? So part of it, what we believe, is in the way that our brains are wired. The human mind has an inability to find happiness, even after a lot of hard work. Some of it has to do with the way that our brains are wired. Let's look at the slide, the picture on the extreme right hand side of this slide. Some of you might see an old woman, some of you might see a young woman. When Saurabh had showed me this photo for the first time, I thought I was pretty sure that I could see the old woman, till of course you look closer and you can see a young woman. So in particular, psychologists and cognitive scientists like Nick Chater, Stephen Sloman, Philip Wernbach are telling us that we suffer from 3 illusions. First is a knowledge illusion. We think we know how complex operations work, and maybe you guys are full of enthusiasm. Where you are in life, you actually think that you can explain everything on this planet, but the reality is that we can't. We would like to think that we know how giant corporations work, how iPhone works. But if I ask some of you, maybe you won't even know how a zipper works, how a toilet flush works. I certainly didn't know that till we started research on this book. Second driver, we can't multitask. We just can't. So one of the most common things that all of us see, and maybe some of us also do, is using the mobile while driving, even if it's on the dashboard of your car. There's enough research to show that even that can distract you. And the third is a visual illusion. Say if you're reading a page of a book, or if you're looking at the slide, you think that you can see the entire thing. You can read the entire page top to bottom, but eye tracking software shows that you're at best focusing anywhere between 12 to 14 letters at a time. So as if all these 3 illusions weren't enough, our memories are also fallible. They're very vulnerable to getting tweaked, right? So we think we're remembering the past, but actually there's a good chance that we're just believing a story. Nick Chater has done a mind-blowing experiment where he asked people to visualize a tiger. Look at the tiger and in the middle of this slide, and then ask them to visualize how a tiger's stripes flow, top to bottom, right to left, on the tail, on the body, or on the head. And if you have your eyes closed and you visualize this, I certainly got it completely wrong. You think that you would know what a tiger looks like. Unfortunately, we can't. It's just the way that our memory works. So if you guys are wondering how we've managed so far, how we've survived, our mind develops shortcuts, heuristics. And if you guys are talking about, if you know the word heuristics, you know the work that has been done by Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky on shortcuts and biases that we use in our minds. But those are just stuff that help us survive through life. How do we actually thrive? How do we push out to make our lives more meaningful and find both professional success and personal happiness? So this is our, we present to you what we believe is the way towards that. We call it the simplicity paradigm. It's a three-tiered structure that starts from the first principles of specialize, simplify, spiritualize, move up to specific behaviors of declutter, creativity, and memory, and collaboration. And as you implement the six-step structure, you will see a massive transformation. The top tier that you see out there, simplicity in business, simplicity in investing, is the result. So in business and in investing, we find that the most effective exponents, the most effective practitioners, have adapted various variants, so to say, or versions of the simplicity paradigm that we're going to now outline to you in the next few minutes. Let's start with specialize. So we know that specialization works. All of us would have our own personal heroes in sports, in movies, whether it's a Virat Kohli in cricket, in investing, there's Charlie Munger, Steve Jobs in business, Shah Rukh Khan, Akshay Kumar. One of the big trends over the last decade has been the rise of the specialist. And the idea of specialization was created some 300 years ago by Adam Smith, but most of us would probably know it more from Malcolm Gladwell's book, Outliers, which talks about doing 10,000 hours of practice to master your talent very early in your career. So one question that all of us get, one question that I'm pretty sure is there on the top of your minds, how do you find that one area that you love? How do you find, where do you start to specialize? And the answer to that is in a very simple and elegant framework by an author called Robert Greene in a book called Mastery. He says that you have to specialize in what you love. So maybe you spend a long time introspecting to find that one area that innately appeals to you. From there, you find a mentor, a guru, and the guru who's a master in the specific art that you want to specialize in, and he can actually guide you, give you shortcuts, and share his knowledge. And once you've learned all of this, you go into what's called the creative active role. That is, you merge the practical knowledge you've got with an emotional balance, and you build your mastery. So one example of this legendary level of mastery, of course, is the great Charlie Munger of Berkshire Hathaway. But closer home, that's closer home in India. I don't know how many of you guys have heard of Motilal Oswal. It's a huge financial services firm, and the co-founder is Ramdev Agrawal, who we met, we spoke to for the purposes of the book. And he comes from a very humble background, from a small village in India called Raipur. Then he did his graduation in Nagpur, and then came to Bombay to do his chartered accountant course. Very early on, when he was doing his CA course, he developed very early skills in the area that he had chosen to love, and he wanted to become rich. He wanted to become rich, and rich by investing. So he was very clear about that, and he developed his skills towards that. So, for example, whenever he would go to eat a meal, a breakfast, lunch, dinner at a restaurant, he would mentally map out the entire floor, the number of tables that are there in the restaurant, the number of chairs that are there in the restaurant, the number of customers who were coming in, the average bill ticket size, the cost that the owner would incur to run the business. And he would then talk to the business owner about this entire thing. So think about that, an entire P&L of a business inside of his head while he's eating food. From there, everything that followed was a pursuit towards that goal. He found a great mentor in the form of Sanjay Bhattacharya. He even went and met Warren Buffett, learned a lot from him, and he developed those high levels of skills to finally take very large bets on very successful companies. Eventually, he went on to become a billionaire. So that's the first principle, which is specialize. Then we come to the second principle, which is simplify. Now, we are all consumers of simplicity in some way or the other. Most of us, or at least a few of us, have an iPhone, and the iPhone is a great example of a piece of technology that really works. Its cost of manufacturing is probably some $500, $600, and it sells for more than $1,000. So think of the McDonald's burger that has made fast food ubiquitous all over the world, or index funds that Vanguard launched in the financial world. Or closer home in India, you've got the concept of SIP, or I believe it's called cost averaging in the US and probably in the UK, which involves investing small amounts of money month after month after month. So these are very powerful examples of prosaic products that deliver simplicity in our lives. So delivering simplicity might sound easy, and these products have changed the world, But creating them is not easy at all. And it's done through two levels. One is simplification through process, and second is simplification through principles. You talk about simplification through process, that's through habit, through routines. And the example that we've given in the book is of Krishna Devaraya, the dominant ruler of Deccan in India, and by far the mightiest ruler the Deccan has seen some 500 years ago. And his routine, his daily routine was legendary, as the author Manu Pillai has captured in his book. Every morning he drank a 3/4 pint of sesame oil, after which he anoints himself all over with the same oil. He would then work out with great weights, exercise with his food, and wrestle with one of his wrestlers till he sweats out, works out that oil. Then he would go house riding until daybreak, and finally, when it is time to appear in court, he would wear a tunic, a brocade cap, and seat himself on the diamond throne. Now, you and I might not, be Indian Maharajas, but extensive research shows that creating a routine is one of the most powerful keys to living a successful life. We look at simplicity through principles, a more advanced level of simplicity. We look at the way Saurabh and his colleagues manage money at Marcellus. They have an approach called the consistent compounders, where they refuse to invest in companies that don't have revenue growth of 10% and ROE of 15% year after year, not on a CAGR basis, but year after year. And Marcellus only focuses on those companies that deliver these results as central to maintaining the discipline in investing. So whether it's the iPhone, the McDonald's burger, the SIP, the index fund, or Marcellus, once these products hit the market with runaway success, everyone says it's easy to make. But simplification through principles is the ultimate sophistication. That's it from me. I'll hand it over to Saurabh. Saurabh.
Thank you very much, Anupam. Thank you very much to the University of Edinburgh for hosting us as well. So folks, Anupam took you through the first two elements of the simplicity paradigm, took you through specialization and simplification. I'll focus on the third element of the foundational layer of the simplicity paradigm, which is spirituality. And once we discuss spirituality, we'll ramp up the difficulty level a bit. We'll go to the more advanced level skills. Now, it's easy to be cynical about spirituality. And I too was a cynic until I became a professional investor a few years ago. And that's when I realized that we have no future facts. There are no future facts that my colleagues at Marcellus Roy can use as we look after the monies of around 3,000 Indian families, right? Spirituality, therefore, is the bridge between our abilities and applying that ability to the world around us. So let me be a little clearer. So I don't know what will happen tomorrow morning when the market will open, right? I have no idea actually what will happen tomorrow. But rather than staying up all night and fretting about my lack of knowledge of the future, I need to control my mind, my emotions, and stay as rational as possible. If I can get better at this, I'll be able to deal with greed and fear better than most. Now, Ray Dalio is the most famous investor who's articulated this point in crystal clear words. So in his book, Principles, he says, the most valuable habit I have acquired is using pain to trigger quality reflections. If you can acquire this habit, you'll learn what causes you pain and what you can do about it. And it will have an enormous effect on your impact as an investor, right? Like Ray Dalio, there's another American fund manager called Jason Voss. He's written a superb book on spirituality and investment called The Intuitive Investor. So we interviewed Jason for our book, and he told us that meditation not only helps in relaxation, it helps in improving focus, and it helps you understand that your family's happiness, your colleagues' happiness, your friends' happiness is actually far more important than your own, right? And this appreciation that meditation gives you, that the people around you actually matter more than you yourself, that in turn, he says, plays a big role in helping you heal your mind and perform better for longer. So just to quote directly from Jason's interview that he did for us, meditation techniques are the meditation practices, are the polishing techniques that help you be the best. You need to find the tools and techniques that exalt your consciousness. Once you discover what makes you and your talents unique, and that's only found through spirituality, Jason says, then all of a sudden magic happens, right? So the spirituality chapter was actually the toughest one to write. And we're glad that we had people like Ray Dalio's book and folks like Jason helping us out. Now let's step it up a bit. Let's go to the more advanced level skills of the simplicity paradigm, right? And we'll begin with clutter reduction. Why are we beginning with clutter reduction? Because even if you meditate every day, if you can't manage your tasks and your workload, your system will go back into cognitive overload, right? All this jazz about simplicity will go out of the window if you can't manage your workload. Now, how do you manage your workload? How do you reduce clutter? You got to focus on what is important. But the question then is, well, how do we know what is important? Cal Newport has written 2 outstanding books on this subject, right? And closer home in India, studying the lives of business legends like Harsh Mariwala, the man who built Marico, studying the lives of Indian business legends has shown us there's a step-by-step process to reducing mental clutter. The process begins by being very clear about your goals, right? And once again, it sounds simple, perhaps even banal to say that you should be you should be focused on getting your goals clarified. But how do you do that? So here's an example. A friend of mine in California who's also a fund manager, he gave me this example last year. He said, I focus on very few things: my family, my investors, and my closest colleagues. I deprioritize everything else, right? Once you have clarity on your goals, you then move towards building prioritized checklists. And there's a super book by a man called Atul Gawande. He's a surgeon in Boston. It's called the Checklist Manifesto. You can use that to create checklists. But get your goals sorted out. After your goals are done, focus on checklists. Why are we focusing on all this? Why are we trying to reduce mental clutter? Because there's serious research which shows that the less cluttered your brain is, the more your memory functions. And the more your memory functions, the more creative you are. There's a very strong link between creativity, memory, and mental clutter. And we'll come back to this in a bit, right? So let's move on from clutter reduction to creativity, right? The real sort of engine room of outsized success. In a highly competitive free market economy, right? And let's face it, whether you're in India, you're in China, you're in the UK, you're in the US, we're all living in a free market economy. There's no socialist god to save us anymore. If you live in a highly competitive free market economy, even if your ideas are marginally better, just marginally better than those of your peers, you'll be in high demand. Original thought, therefore, becomes the key driver of wealth and success in our world. The question then becomes, well, how do we produce original thought rather than regurgitating whatever we read on social media, right? So what experts like psychologists like Adam Grant, Doris Wallace, and Howard Gruber have shown that pretty much whatever research that's been done in the last 50 years shows there's a very common list of 5 things which fire up creativity. Across experts, across countries, 5 things which drive creativity. Item 1 is read widely. So Charlie Munger says famously, he's never met a smart person who does not read widely. Every expert we interviewed for this book, for the Victory Project, turned out to be a voracious reader, right? And for my part, I ask almost everybody I meet what books they're reading. I create a long list on my phone, and then every Saturday morning I sit on this seat and buy books on Amazon, and I spend the rest of my time reading. Second driver of creativity: explore the world, travel extensively, meet people from a variety of cultures and religions, go through a range of experiences. Most of what I learned before I became a professional investor came from doing a variety of odd jobs as a teenager, the sort of age many of you are at: backpacking holidays, friendships formed in betting shops and the bank branches. I worked through my late teens and my early 20s, right? Third driver of creativity: enhance your memory. People who have developed their memories to a very high level have learned how to focus their attention on essential information. There are specific memory enhancing techniques which are worth learning. You can find them easily on the net. We've given some in the book. Driver number 4, work hard, produce lots of ideas. It's no surprise that almost all creative giants have a high output rate. So in this book, we profiled one of my childhood heroes, Satyajit Ray, Oscar-winning film director. He created 36 movies in a 35-year career. But last week, speaking to a friend in Hong Kong, and he told me Woody Allen, in a 35-year career, Woody Allen's created 35 movies. 22 of them have been Oscar nominated, right? Incredible sort of track record of creativity. And the 5th driver: make friends, jam with other creatives, find other allies, find people who can give you emotional support, intellectual support, and practical help. Now, a lot of these characteristics of creativity, right, we see in this man called Sanjeev Bikhchandani. He's created this $7 billion company in India called InfoEdge. It's a listed giant. Inside InfoEdge sits India's largest employment classifieds website called Naukri.com. Right, Sanjeev built this. He built this 25 years ago, before LinkedIn, long before LinkedIn, and he's seen off all competitors, including Monster, including LinkedIn, and built a $7 billion giant. He's defied every possible rule you can think of in business, and his interview, his profile, his journey is in the book. So let's come to the final skill in the simplicity paradigm. No matter how creative you are, if you want to change the world with your ideas, you need to learn how to influence people and win their support in collaboration in favor of your cause. Right? The greatest teams are teams of rivals, i.e., teams of diverse sets of people who probably don't see eye to eye on many issues, but who agree to work towards a common goal. The most famous examples of this are, say, in the American context, it's Abraham Lincoln and the cabinet he created in 1860 to pull America out of the ashes of the Civil War. And in our country, in India, the most famous example is the first cabinet built after independence in 1947. What Mahatma Gandhi did was he brought together fierce rivals like Sardar Patel and Baba Sahib Ambedkar. He brought them into the cabinet and he united them. He united them in the common cause of building the constitution which still governs our lives, right? There are several other examples given in the book in the corporate context of collaboration. But one more interesting example, non-corporate example, a gentleman called Manish Sabarwal, who runs India's largest employment leasing firm. He told us that if you look at the temples in South India in a town called Belur, so this is called Hoysala architecture. If you see the temples in Belur in Karnataka, the sculptures in the temples often include lions, that's signifying power, elephants signifying strength, and horses signifying speed. A good king, and the reason that's why these temples are built, a good king is trying to integrate the elephants and the lions and the horses in his team. And that's why a team of rivals, a team of diverse talents is an immense source of strength. The greatest example, we believe, of collaboration in India, collaboration on an absolutely epic scale, is our largest dairy products company, Amul. So this was built from nothing. It's a cooperative. It was built from nothing in 1947 to a company which is 3 times the size of Nestle India today. So Nestle India's market cap is $22 billion. So if Amul were listed, it would be worth somewhere like $60-70 billion of market cap, right? But it's a cooperative, and Amul is collaboration on an epic scale. They procure 2.3 trillion liters of milk every day. 2.3 crore liters. So to put that in Western parlance, will be 23 billion liters. I'm sorry, 2.3 crore liters will be 23 billion liters of milk from 19,000 milk cooperative societies across the country, and from nearly 3.6 million individual milk producers. This happens every day, and pretty much the entire country lives off Amul's butter. Half the country lives off Amul's milk, right? And all this from a company that didn't even exist 70 years ago, and that one man built by making people cooperate without profit as a motive, right? So that's it. That's the simplicity paradigm. We're pulling together 2 layers of skills here. The first layer, the foundational layer, the layer which is, I suppose, most applicable to you folks in the stage of life you're in. The foundational layer of the simplicity paradigm focuses on specialization, on simplicity, and on spirituality. More advanced level skills of the simplicity paradigm come from collaboration, clutter reduction, and creativity, right? And two famous music directors in India who exemplify the collaboration aspect, one from the north, one from the south, R.D. Burman from the north and A.R. Rahman from the south. These are 2 famous music directors, music composers in our country. And the reason we chose them is this. Both of these music composers revolutionized Indian movie music. So R.D. Burman in the 60s and 70s, starting with Tisri Manzil in 1966, he completely transformed the sort of sounds which were used in Indian cinema. He changed the budgets that were used for music, and he made music the centerpiece of Bollywood cinema. And A.R. Rahman did the same in the 1990s, right? Starting with Roja in 1991, which went on to be, I think, rated by Time magazine as one of the top 10 movie soundtracks of all time. A.R. Rahman changed the way music was composed for Indian cinema. Both worked long hours, both focused on perfection, but most importantly, both befriended the leading producers, film directors, and superstars of their time. In short, both excelled in collaboration. So that brings us to the end of this trilogy of books that we've written over the last 6 years. So we started with Unusual Billionaires back in 2015. We profiled a very unique set of companies. I think Mr. Dhanuka at the beginning was very kind enough to highlight our compounding track record. So this journey started 5 years ago with Unusual Billionaires. We profiled a very unique set of companies that deliver outstanding financial performance year after year, and we explained how they do it. We then took these rules and translated them into simple portfolios that anybody can build. In Coffee Can Investing in 2018, we created a very simple investment construct that millions of Indians can build for themselves. They don't need us to do it. And finally, we finished this trilogy. We finished this trilogy with the Victory Project. And we believe that in spite of everything that's happened in India and indeed across the world in the last 6 months, we believe one can live a fulfilling life by following the simplicity paradigm. So thank you very much, everybody, for giving us your time, your attention. Thank you very much to the University of Edinburgh and to the conference organizers. Thank you. Back to you, Harsh.
Thank you for that wonderful presentation to the two of you. And just to add to what you've already been saying, yes, the two other books that were part of the trilogy were also quite transformative. Just to tell you a personal story, at the beginning of this year, I pitched a stock, and actually even Aditya pitched a stock at the university's trading and investment club. And I think after that, for me personally at least, I was on cloud 9. And I thought I knew just about everything, but then I actually read Coffee Can Investing, and it brought me down to earth again. And now I've read the Victory Project, and now I'm excited to start reading The Unusual Billionaires very soon.
Fantastic.
So
Glad
amazing
trilogy.
Thank
you.
Awesome. So I would now like to pass it on to Aditya. We can set the ball rolling with a few questions. Adi?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Well, first of all, Mr. Mukherjea and Mr. Gupta, thank you so much. That was an incredible talk. You had me right there from beginning to end. It was phenomenal. My first question actually ties in very nicely to the story that Hardik just mentioned, which is that apart from The Unusual Billionaires, the Victory Project, and Coffee Can Investing, what other books would you sort of recommend to people to read who are curious about investing in this sphere of the world?
So from my side,
Go for it.
Sorry. So I think from my side, I just love reading about corporate history in India. It's a topic that's still not been properly written, properly chronicled, properly documented, as well as it is in the US. I mean, the US, you could have, tomes and tomes about, say, the early how JP Morgan financed the entire railroad boom out there and stuff like that. In India, is still that thing is not. That habit is still not there, and therefore, whatever books that I can find on Indian corporates, I just try and read as many of them as I can. Most of them have been already listed in the book in the Victory Project, whether it's the books by Hamish McDonald on Reliance, the Polyester Prince, whether it is the story of Amul, what Saurabh just mentioned, whether it is there is a large group of an Indian family that makes savory snacks, Haldiram. There's a book on them. So all these books are in Indian corporate history. Just pick and choose of them. There is the book on HDFC Bank, for example, 2 volumes of them by Tamal Bandyopadhyay. So all of these books to me would be top of mind, whether you want to learn investing, whether you want to learn entrepreneurship, whether you want to learn anything, because I feel that a lot of them have a lot of lessons.
Thank you.
Since a lot of people have asked us this question, we wrote a blog on this. I'll just show you where it is. It's on our website. So it's in the Marcellus website, and hopefully you'll be able to see it. I'll beam it up. So we've created a list of books that non-finance books that investors will enjoy. So right on the top is this book called Range by David Epstein, right? So how generalists triumph in a specialized world. I thought it was an outstanding book, and we learned a lot. So what Epstein talks about is, don't just do the Gladwellian 10,000 hours. Just don't just do the specialization. Build a range of interests. Read around, travel around, meet a variety of people. Become like the letter T. So the vertical part of the T is your specialization, and the horizontal part of your T is your range of interest. And he gives you loads of examples as to how powerful that paradigm is. Then there's a lovely book by a guy called Mason Curry, right? It's called Daily Rituals: How Artists Work. It's just a gorgeous book to read. It's only 12 pages, and he tells you, how Ernest Hemingway, how music composers, how architects, I was like Asimov. So my favorite authors, my favorite musicians, how these guys live their lives. So what time do they get up? When did they begin work during the day? When did they take their lunch breaks? What did they do in the evening? So it gives you the daily lives of around 200 very creative people. And it was incredibly interesting to see how over 300, 400 years, creative people have actually lived in a very similar way, right? So basically, it's a life of routine. It's obviously lots of hard work, but what's also very interesting is a structured routine, right? Whether it is sort of bohemian people like, say, painters like Francis Bacon, or science fiction writers like Isaac Asimov. Daily Rituals is a gorgeous book. And then if you guys are interested in psychology, Nick Chater's book, The Mind is Flat. This is an absolutely mind-blowing read. It was published, I think, 2 years ago. It's a little heavy, but the thought experiments he makes you do sort of, makes you revisit your whole perspective of life. Anupam spoke about the tiger experiment, right? The mental experiment around the tiger. So just go to marcellus.in, and we've got a blog there about the books that led to the Victory Project. Hopefully you'll enjoy that blog.
Wow, thank you so much, both of you, for your recommendations. I'm definitely going to add those to my reading list and check the list out. Actually, that ties in very nicely with the next question I had. So you touched on, Malcolm Gladwell's 10,000-hour rule and the sort of idea of specialist versus generalist. I know that this sort of sentiment that I've been hearing increasingly lately is that with the rapidly transforming landscape of our world, I've been hearing this popular opinion that perhaps it's better to be a generalist than a specialist. And so I was just wondering what your thoughts were about that.
So I'll go first. There is no choice. You have to be both. If you want to hack it in the real world, you have to be both. If you're not a specialist, nobody's going to pay you. And if you're not a generalist, you won't be able to understand, you won't be able to get the nonlinear insights which drive the creativity engine. And hence the letter T, right? So hence the letter T. So take an example. So in the book, we use Bruce Lee as a case study. So you think Bruce Lee, famous martial arts artist, became a movie star, became the first martial arts action hero actually, it wasn't so much in Hollywood. He came to Asia to do it. But Bruce Lee's life is actually a beautiful example of specialization and generalization. To do what he did, he basically read up on fencing, right? He read around 20 books on fencing. A lot of his martial arts style is influenced by fencing. Then to slow down, he had to actually slow down his martial arts moves so that the movie camera could pick it up. Those skills he took from Western ballet, right? The spirituality aspect he took from Chinese philosophy, right? So on the face of it, Bruce Lee looks like a cut and dried martial arts action hero. But behind Bruce Lee is a whole medley of skills, right? It's a man with wide variety of interests, from fencing, Western style fencing, ballet dancing, Chinese philosophy, and you integrate the two to create the letter T, and that's what made Bruce Lee the first martial arts superstar. Others, I'm 100% sure there were better martial arts fighters, but nobody else had the creativity to figure out how to take a Chinese art and bring it to cinema, how to slow it down and still make it look fluid, look attractive on the screen. This man figured it out, and he became a superstar. Our loss that after 3 movies, he lost his life in Hong Kong.
From my side, I think you guys exemplify the whole thing, right? You guys are undergrad kids. I'm guessing that you're still figuring what to do in life. You guys have probably one major, one minor, stuff like that, which honestly is far better than what we have here in India, which is a gun put to your head saying that, okay, you can only become a doctor, you can only become an engineer, or me become a CA. So I think you guys should know this more than us people, that you need exposure to a wide variety of stuff before you really figure out this is what you want to do in life. And even when you discover that one thing that you want to do in life, you'll figure that you need to have a lot of associated skills if you want to reach a certain level of mastery. Because I'm sure, if you stick to just one agenda, say that if you're great at coding and that's all you know, that's simply all that you know, you're only going to go to some level. You're going to go up to a certain level. If you don't understand, say, for example, collaboration, bringing people of diverse interests along with you to, towards a common goal. Just look at Tim Cook. Tim Cook at Apple is someone who wakes up at some 4:30 a.m. He's got a punishing schedule. But guess what? Which company is the largest market cap in the world today? Which company has bought back more billions of dollars? And the amount of buyback that Apple has done is probably more than the market cap of a lot of companies in the world. And if you see Tim Cook, this is someone who took over Apple when Apple was supposed to be dead. Steve Jobs gone, everything over. But look at what he's done. but he has a whole variety of skills. And believe me, he's not an easy boss to be with. There's enough written on record to show that he's a very tough boss to work with. But that's because he pushes you to achieve your goals. So I'm saying that this specialist and generalist is not an either or debate, like Saurabh said. You have to be both.
So actually, in that context, coffee can investing, the idea came from my betting shop days in the UK. So through my teens, when I was in college, I used to work at Ladbrokes on Saturday, Sunday to earn some money. And I worked in Ladbrokes from the age of 17 through to 2021. I think four years I worked there. So what I used to notice there was that the people who make most money in betting in the betting shops were the fellows who would come in for 5 minutes, bet once a day, and they would take home tons of money. And I used to say the same people used to make money in the betting shop. So one morning, still remember, it was 93 or 94 perhaps. Yeah, I was in my second year. I mustered my courage and I asked this customer that, look, every morning you come and 4 out of 5 days you win. How do you do it? So he told me that, look, I've been betting for 20, 25 years. Every morning I wake up at 5 o'clock. I take the sports pages of the newspapers. I take a big cup of coffee and I read the sports pages. And because I've been doing this for 20 years, I can see patterns in sport. So the example he gave me, which stayed with me, which led to coffee can investing was, he says that, look, I know whenever India comes to England to play Test cricket, when India plays England at Lords, Dilip Vengsarkar gets 100. It's a dead cert, right? It's a high probability bet. The odds are in my favor. So whenever India plays at England at Lords, I bet on Dilip Vengsarkar, whatever the odds. If Ladbrokes gives me 3-1, I take it, right? And that stayed with me. So I migrated to India in 2008. 2013, I took that example. We back tested the data for the Indian market, and that led to the coffee can investing philosophy.
And to take an example from that, if you guys have a trading and investment club, right? It's called UTIC, right? Now let's assume that you guys have figured that that you want to become a fund manager as successful as Saurabh, and that's what you want to do in life. Why don't you guys give something like fantasy cricket a try? Now on the face of it, it might not be related to fund management, but it's now about running models. It's about running algorithms. It's about running quants. Because the detail of data available on cricket matches today is probably 100,000 times more than from Saurabh's era. So if you have a passion for cricket, you could actually become a much better fund manager, right? The same thing, right? You focus on one thing, but you have interest in the other. That's the T-shirt that Saurabh was talking about.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, I think it's just sorry.
No, go ahead, Adi. I know what you're going to talk about.
I think it's. Yeah, I was just going to say that it's sort of that idea that the magic is found in the intersection of things, I guess, and I think that really strikes at the heart of what you're trying to say. Wow, beautiful answer, thank you. Hardy, do you have any questions?
Yes, I do actually, and this is a rather popular question, so it comes from public demand, you could say. In finance these days, a lot of people wonder if it is a significant advantage to have a background in STEM, science, technology, engineering, math, of course, because you can see that, you just mentioned quant trading, ironically enough. So the kind of thing that would require a good amount of math, computer science. So I was wondering whether you would say that having a background in STEM does give you a significant advantage in the field of finance.
Anupam, do you want to go first?
Yes. I don't know. I mean, you're someone who has. I'll take I'll take an initial grab at this. I'm a commerce graduate here. I'm not even STEM. I tried. I couldn't clear the IIT exam. I couldn't clear the IIM exam. I was extremely lucky back in 1999. That's more than 20 years ago to get into what was then India's largest and most successful brokering equity brokerage, CLS, and they're very kind enough to actually consider me, even though I didn't have a background in STEM. So see, the STEM versus humanities debates is actually global. And I wish that there was a cut and dry black and white answer that yes, you do, or yes, you don't. I think you need to have the best of both worlds. So probably, having a STEM background probably gives you more a proper background on the mechanical and on the technical aspects of a lot of things. Probably coming from a commerce and an arts or a humanities background gives you a better framework on the philosophy of things. I'll give you an example. If you were to invest, if you were to look at a company that you want to invest in, there are a whole range of skills that you need to actually start. Some of them come from STEM, some of them come from commerce, some of them come from humanities. So let's say it's a cement plant. So obviously you would need to know how cement plants work. Do you need an engineering degree for that? Not really, but it helps. Okay, then you need to understand how the annual reports work. Does the STEM degree help there? Not really, but the commerce degree will. Now, once you've got all of that into place and you actually talk to the promoter or you watch earnings, the earnings call, and you try to pass the language that he speaks. And when you've seen this over a very long period of time, you understand how behaviors work. That is something that STEM won't give, but humanities will. So I wish that I had a black and white answer for you, but I don't. Saurabh probably will.
Yeah, I think the answer is anybody who says what does the job market needs and then studies accordingly, I think will be setting himself or herself up for deep disaster. Never ever say, I want to get into this, I want to get to work in finance, so let me study what will make me employable. Reverse the question, focus on what you enjoy. There are not going to be too many years of your life where you'll get to study what you feel like. Study what you enjoy, excel at it, and then the employment opportunities will come. Whether it's Marcellus, whether it is Goldman Sachs or Renaissance Technologies, every single financial services employer gets thousands of CVs. And the main thing we look for people who haven't studied finance or quant or economics just because it leads to a good job. So there's no hope in hell for people who are studying STEM or indeed any other subject just because it leads to a good job. Reverse the logic. Focus on what you enjoy doing. If your parents won't let you do it, which was the case with my parents at part of my stage in life, go and earn your money and pay for your own education. But for Christ's sakes, don't study STEM because you think it'll lead to a good job. Study STEM if you enjoy STEM. If you don't enjoy STEM, don't study STEM. Study art, philosophy, history, whatever makes your juices flow. Right? What the sheer degree of competitiveness in the job market has done is there is no room in this job market for people who are not doing what they love doing. If you're not doing a job, if you're not following a career, you're not studying what you love studying, it's going to be super tough out there. So introspect big time. Don't look at the job market, introspect big time and say, what do I actually enjoy doing? Focus on understanding that and studying that. That'll lead to success.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And we just like to clarify. So we started 10 minutes late and the talk was scheduled for another 4 minutes. We were wondering if you could give us another 15 minutes of your time.
Yeah. Anupam, you good?
Sorry?
I'm good.
We're good. Yeah, we're good.
Awesome. Adi, you have the next question, I believe.
Yeah. So what gets you out of bed each morning?
New books to read, new books to write, more money to make. So both of them in equal measure. So books to read, books to write. Obviously, if you don't read, you can't write, and if you don't read, you can't make money either. So the money is the end. The money is the end. It's not the. It's a byproduct. We're living in one of the world's most interesting countries. We're living in a world which itself in great flux. So much to read, so much to learn about, so much to soak up, and then you can produce something, whether it's a book, whether it's a piece of music, a movie, an investment strategy, which in turn helps you make money. All the better for it.
I can't add to that, honestly. It's just writing and discovering new things every day. Definitely that.
Wonderful. It
Wonderful.
feels
Actually,
hear that from someone in the financial services industry, not the kind of answer you'd expect. But I guess that's what makes it wonderful. But I actually have the next question, which is, with COVID and the global pandemic, the economic crisis, health crisis, and everything, a lot of people our age or a year older than us worry that there won't be ample job opportunities or just opportunities for them. Either now, 2 years down the line. Do you see this as something people have legitimate reason to worry about, or is this something they shouldn't focus on?
Why would they?
Why? Yeah, man. We had the First World War. We had the Second World War. We had the Great Depression. We had the Great Financial Crisis in India. We had the NBFC scam. We had the Ketan Parekh scam. 2008. We also had the global financial crisis. In 98, we had the Asian financial crisis. we've got an NBFC scam happening every second year. Our banks are in a mess every year.
Yeah, every day, not second.
Yeah, every year. Real estate is always crashing. And yet, EdTech in India has seen, what, a couple of $1 billion? We've had, I don't know, I mean, guys, I mean, help me out here.
So don't fall for those sorts of stupid narratives. There's no dearth of jobs after every crisis, not just in India. If you look at whether it's the Spanish flu of 1918 to 20, so Mark Mobius and I are going to publish a piece on this next week, showing that after every single crisis, consumption, GDP growth, and stock market booms for the next 10 years. So anybody who tells you jobs are going to be scarce, I think ask them to go and get a mental checkup done.
I will go and get one. Adi, I think you had the next question.
Fantastic. This question is for you, Mr. Mukherjea, specifically. When you were starting up Marcellus, what was the challenge that you didn't foresee coming, and sort of how did you navigate that?
So honestly, we didn't expect the firm to get so big so quickly. So because I was working with Anupam on the book, and part of the reason I was working on the book, I thought it'll take a while for the track record to build. Because I spent most of my life in the West, so I thought things will happen slowly because that's how it happens in the West. So I thought it'll take 3 years for the track record to build, and a few customers come. But we hadn't bargained for the fact that within the first, I think, year, we had around 1,000 customers, and 2 years in, we're not even 2 years old actually, we have 3,500 customers. So we had to scale up the team. We had to recruit more people quicker than we thought we would have to. So pretty much every other day we're advertising on LinkedIn for people. We had to ramp up our technology quicker. That meant we had to invest more in the business. So the growth was way faster than we expected. And remember, this is after living in India for 10 years. So after living in India for 10 years, we started Marcellus. And in spite of that, we misjudged the speed at which the firm will grow. And it still astounds me that we built a business plan over 2 years and we misjudged how quickly it'll grow. We misjudged by a massive margin how quickly it'll grow. Then we're even dumber than that. So COVID happened on let's say March 21st. Our country was put into lockdown. So I told my colleagues it'll be 6 very difficult months. We should not only have to work from home, perhaps we'll have to consider cost cuts and so on. And in the next 6 months, the business doubled. Right, and our headcount rose by a third. So never listen to people who make these prognostications, including me, about infinite doom, because it's not like that. If you're enthusiastic about what you're doing, you're good at it. And then the two are linked. Obviously, if you're not enthusiastic, you're not going to be good at it, right? You can't be a sad person and still be good at it. If you're enthusiastic about what you do and you're good at it, there will be opportunities. Whether you as an individual or you as an enterprise, whether you're living in the UK, Ukraine, or India.
Awesome. So the next question, actually, thank you for that answer, by the way. The next question is maybe more on, it's related to the book that you wrote, and it's also a general question that I think quite a few people in our field would have, which is, in your book, you've kind of debunked the whole idea of networking events and whatnot. You said that you stopped attending them. I tried to picture myself in your position, and I thought there would actually be a lot of pressure on me to go to a ton of networking events.
Anupam, do you want to take this? This is a pet peeve. I think let's get Anupam started, then I'll chip in.
Yeah, fair enough. So whether you think that it's overrated, or if people do indeed want to get into such a thing, because you've obviously stressed the importance of collaboration in general, then what
I think Anupam's line dropped off. So the reason it's a complete waste of time is the notion that you'll go to a drinks event. So I used to do that as a graduate as well, right? I used to go to these UBS or Goldman Sachs would hold drinks and canapes, and you would go and desperately sort of try to hope that the head of HR spends 60 seconds talking to you and you'll get a job. You realize not only is that a waste of time, you realize through your 20s and 30s, even when you're a professional, going to networking events is a complete waste of time. Right? So basically, there are people who believe you can rise in the world by meeting other people and who you know. And there are people who believe you can rise in the world by deepening the tea of the tea, right? The stem of the tea. The stem of the tea is the big deal, right? That takes up a lot of my space and effort. If you then have some time left, use it use it to relax, to enjoy, to meet, make friends, rather than at some sad networking event having wine and canapes with people who are, working in, in the city of London or in Manhattan. Right? It's just not the way to live life. So at every stage of my life, I felt it was a waste of time, but I did it. I have to confess, I did it for 10, 15 years, thinking it's the way to go. It took me the best part of 15 years to realize that people who go to networking events are not the people who rise in the world. Anupam, you want to add something on networking events, our favorite pastime?
I am, I'm on the other side because I am on the biggest network in the planet, which is Twitter. Honestly, see, you have to choose where you want to quote unquote network. Now, network is a very, I don't know what connotations it has, because networking has become the thing thanks to social media. But as we've written in the book, you can't really get carried away. You can't. I mean, there is a lot of toxicity out there on all social media platforms. I am there on most of them, and the way that I've figured how to crack it is, and what we've written in the book, is to be very focused on your usage. Okay, and that, I think, even if you read Cal Newport's book, he talks about a digital detox. So that, as far as the social networking is concerned, some of it maybe from your perspective might be necessary. After all, how you guys want to meet your future employers, how you're going to pitch your product, stuff like that. But if, as long as you keep your own energy and your own motives in mind when you're doing this quote unquote networking, I think that will be more important than the event itself.
So that being said, I actually now remember there's one redeeming merit of going to a networking event. So I came from a very modest family of very modest means, and as I said, I had to work my way through university. So I realized that I would never be able to afford fine wine on my student allowance. So the main merit of attending networking events hosted by big investment banks and asset managers, I realized, was the wine that they serve. So I'd partake in the fine wine, and then I'd make my way home.
Adi, as a
I
fine
think
wine.
that's definitely a draw for a lot of so we're just approaching the end of our time, so I have one final question for you, and it's addressed to both of you, actually. If you could go back in time to when you were 20 years old, right in the latter part of your undergraduate years, about to embark upon your career and your life for that matter, and you could give the younger Saurabh and the younger Anupam any piece of advice, what would it be?
I'll go first because I actually have, it's like saying that, so I am almost 50 now. I wish the 75-year-old me could come and tell me something right now. I would be like really, really thrilled, but that's not going to happen. But no, so I think what I was doing back then was, the nuts and bolts were in place at that point of time. I think what I would have said was that one is that, what we said in the book, essentially travel more and read more. That's it's as simple as that. But at that point of time, read more would have been possible. Travel more, I don't think would have been even possible, because there's a lot of conflicting stuff that happens at various stages of your life. So that's the only reason why I'm not a big fan of the what would you tell your 21-year-old self. I wish I had the 75-year-old self telling me, listen, just chill out, you're going to make $1 billion. Great. Sort of all yours.
I mean, look, I mean, I'm sure there are many different people who come from a variety of financial backgrounds to your fine university, and there are some people who probably need to sort out their financial future very quickly after university, and therefore there is that stress of employment looming over their heads. In retrospect, I wish somebody had told me that if you go to good universities like yours, and you're good at what you're doing, whatever you're studying, you're good at it, the world and its dog will come to you and offer you a job. So don't stress yourself out about this job market thing, and certainly don't have these apocalyptic visions about next 2 years. There won't be enough jobs. That's the kind of bunk that I've been hearing for the last 20 years. The next 2 years will never be as good, but it hasn't quite panned out. Make the most of it. You're in a great city. You're in a fine university. Make the most of it. You're studying with interesting people. That part will never come back. You'll get plenty of jobs. All of you will have fulfilling careers, but what you'll never get is that chance to spend 3-4 years with extremely interesting, bright people in an entertaining city like Edinburgh. Enjoy every minute of it, and don't worry about that job. The job will come to you.
Thank you. I think that question and all the ones that preceded it and the talk are going to strike some chords with a lot of people, myself included. All Hardik, would you like to make any closing remarks before we end the live stream? Or if any of you would like to make any closing remarks before we end the live stream?
I'd like to wish all of you guys all the best. You guys are literally our future. I wish you guys all the very best in whatever endeavor that you guys have. I wish that our book is helpful to you in your journey. So all the best, guys.
Same to you guys, same to you. And maybe one day when my son and daughter are a little older, I'll ask one of you, how does one get admission into University of Edinburgh?
I'm just investing in Saurabh's portfolio so that I can afford that. So,
Considering that you studied at the London School of Economics, I don't think you'll have to ask us yourself. But yes, with regard to that, thank you so much to the two of you for having us.
Thank you, guys.
Being with us. It was absolutely wonderful. So far, I've just been reading your book or your books, kind of a dream come true. I never thought I'd actually get to see you face to face and ask you a few questions I had myself. Adi, thanks a lot for helping with just about everything.
It's our pleasure to have you as speakers.
Thank you.
Take care.
Privilege.
Bye.
I'll go ahead and end the live stream.